Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyatya Deshatarane Trinadapi Sunichena Tarar Iba Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Hare Nama Hare Nama Hare Namaiva Kevalam Kalau Nastyeva 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 Gatir Anyata Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. In the Skanda Purana, in the dialogue between Lord Brahma and Narada Muni, we find this information. By reading Sri Hari's names, or the episode of Gajendra's liberation, one will never again experience birth or death. Moreover, for those who hear Vishnu Katha in this month, each 1/2 verse or 1/4 of verse yields the fruits of donating 100 cows. Indeed, all other duties, O great sage, should be given up in favor of hearing scriptures from holy men, be it for spiritual benefit or with other expectations. By engaging in Harikatha, one uplifts hundreds of one's family generations. A person will burn all sinful reactions and gain the fruit of 10,000 sacrifices for each day of Kartik spent in the delight of scriptures. In fact, Lord Madhusudan is not as pleased by sacrifices or by charity of cows and elephants as he is pleased with discourses from the scriptures during the month of Kartik. O eminent sage, by hearing Hari Katha, one can transcend the distress accumulated in millions of births. By regularly trying to read Shreemad-Bhagavatam during this month, one gains the benefit of reading all the Puranas. From the Shreemad-Bhagavatam, 2nd Canto, Chapter 7, verse 15. Again, Lord Brahma is speaking to his son Narada Muni. Antak Sarasyuru Balena Pade Grihito Grahena Yutta Patir Ambuja Hasta Arta Ahedam Adi Purushaki Laloka Nata Tirtha Shrava Shravana Mangala Namadeya. The leader of the elephants, whose leg was attacked in a river by a crocodile of superior strength, was much aggrieved. Taking a lotus flower in his trunk, he addressed the Lord, saying, O original enjoyer, O Lord of the universe, O deliverer, as famous as a place of pilgrimage, all are purified simply by hearing your holy name, which is worthy to be chanted. In the 7th Canto, chapter 9, verse 9, Prahlad Maharaj prays to Lord Nisringa. Manye danadbijana rupa tapa srutaujas. Teja prabhava bala paurusha buddhi yoga. Naradanaya hi bhavanti parasya pungso. Bhaktya tutosha bhagavan gajayuta paya. O Lord, one may possess wealth, an aristocratic family, beauty, austerity, education, sensory expertise, luster, influence, physical strength, diligence, intelligence, and mystic yogic power. But I think that even by all these qualifications, one cannot satisfy you, O Lord. However, one can satisfy you simply by devotional service. Gajendra did this, and thus the Lord was satisfied with him. And now, the story of Elephant Gajendra. Part 1, Gajendra's Crisis. In the second, third, and fourth chapters of this 8th canto, there is the description of how the Lord, during the reign of the 4th Manu, gave protection to the king of the elephants. As described in this 2nd chapter, when the king of the elephants, along with his female elephants, was enjoying in the water, a crocodile suddenly attacked him, and the elephant surrendered to the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead for protection. In the midst of the ocean of milk, there is a very high and beautiful mountain which has an altitude of 10,000 yojanas or 80,000 miles. This mountain is known as Trikuta. In a valley of Trikuta, there is a nice garden named Ritumat, which was constructed by Varunadev. And in that area, there is a very nice lake. Once, the chief of the elephants, along with female elephants, went to enjoy bathing in that lake, and they had disturbed the inhabitants of the water. Because of this, the chief crocodile in that water, who was very powerful, immediately attacked the elephant's leg. Thus there ensued a great fight between the elephant and the crocodile. This fight continued for 1,000 years. Neither the elephant nor the crocodile died. But since they were in the water, the elephant gradually became weak, whereas the power of the crocodile increased more and more. Thus the crocodile became more and more encouraged. Then the elephant, being helpless and seeing that there was no other way for his protection, sought shelter at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Chapter 3, Gajendra's Prayers of Surrender. In this chapter, the prayers by Gajendra, the king of the elephants, are described. It appears that the king of the elephants was formerly a human being known as Indradyumna, and that he had learned a prayer to the Supreme Lord. Fortunately, he remembered that prayer and began to chant it to himself. First, he offered his respectful obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And because of his awkward position in having been attacked by the crocodile, he expressed his inability to recite prayers nicely. Nonetheless, he tried to chant the mantra and express himself in appropriate words. Here is a gist of his prayers. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause of all causes, the original person from whom everything has emanated. He is the root cause of this cosmic manifestation, and the entire cosmos rests in him. Yet he is transcendental. He is transcendental, for he does everything in relation to the material world through his external energy. He is eternally situated in the spiritual world, Vaikuntha, or Goloka Vrindavan. There he engages in his eternal pastimes. The material world is a product of his external energy or material nature, which works under his direction. It is thus that creation, maintenance, and annihilation take place. The Lord exists at all times. This is extremely difficult for a non-devotee to understand. Although the transcendental Supreme Personality of Godhead is perceivable by everyone, only the pure devotees perceive his presence and activities. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is completely free from material birth, death, old age, and disease. Indeed, if anyone in this material world takes shelter of him, he or she also becomes situated in that transcendental position. For the satisfaction of the devotee, Paritranaya Sadhunam, the Lord appears and exhibits his activities. His appearance, disappearance, and other pastimes are not at all material. One who knows this secret can enter the kingdom of God. In the Lord, all opposing elements are adjusted. The Lord is situated in everyone's heart. He is the controller of everything. He is the witness of all activities, and he is the original source of all living entities. Indeed, all living entities are parts of him, for he is the origin of Mahavishnu. And Mahavishnu is the source of the living entities within this material world. The Lord can observe the activities of our senses, which can work and achieve material results because of his mercy. Although he is the original source of everything, he is untouched by any of his byproducts. In this way, he is like a gold mine, which is the source of gold in ornaments, and yet is different from the ornaments themselves. The Lord is worshipped by the method prescribed in the Pancharatras. He is the source of our knowledge, and he can give us liberation. Therefore, it is our duty to understand him according to the instructions of the devotees. In particular, the spiritual master. Although for us the mode of goodness is covered, by following the instructions of saintly persons and the spiritual master, we can be freed from the material clutches. This self-effulgent material form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is adored by non-devotees. His impersonal form is adored by those advanced in spiritual knowledge, and his feature as the localized supersoul is appreciated by yogis. But his original form as a person is understood only by devotees. That Supreme Personality of Godhead is competent to dissipate the darkness of the conditioned soul through his instructions in Bhagavad Gita. He is the ocean of transcendental qualities and can be understood only by liberated persons freed from the bodily concept of life. By his causeless mercy, the Lord can rescue the conditioned soul from material clutches and enable him or her to return home back to Godhead in order to become his personal associate. Nonetheless, a pure devotee does not aspire to go back to Godhead. He or she is simply satisfied with executing service in this material world. A pure devotee does not ask anything from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One's only prayer is to be freed from the material conception of life and to be engaged in the Lord's transcendental loving service. In this way, the king of the elephants, Gajendra, offered prayers directly to the Supreme Personality of Godhead without mistaking him for one of the demigods. None of the demigods came to see or save Gajendra, not even Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva. Rather, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, seated upon Garuda, personally appeared before him. By lifting his trunk, Gajendra offered obeisances to the Lord, and the Lord immediately pulled him from the water along with the crocodile who had captured his leg. Then the Lord killed the crocodile and thus rescued Gajendra. Chapter 4. Gajendra returns to the spiritual world. This fourth chapter describes the previous birth of Gajendra and the crocodile. It tells how the crocodile became a Gandharva and how Gajendra became an associate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There was once a king on the Gandharva planet whose name was Huhu. Once this king Huhu was enjoying with women in the water, and while enjoying, he pulled the leg of Devala Rishi, who was also taking a bath in the water. Upon this happening, the sage became very angry and immediately cursed Huhu to become a crocodile. King Huhu was very sorry when cursed in that way, and he begged pardon from the sage, who in compassion gave him the benediction that he would be freed when Gajendra was to be delivered by the personality of Godhead. Thus the crocodile was delivered when killed by Narayan. When Gajendra, by the mercy of the Lord, became one of the Lord's associates in Vaikuntha, he received 4 hands. This achievement is called Sarupya Mukti, or the liberation of receiving a spiritual body exactly like that of Narayan. Gajendra, in his previous birth, had been a great devotee of Lord Vishnu. His name was Indradyumna, and he was the king of the Tamil country. Following the Vedic principles, this king had retired from family life and had constructed a small cottage in the Malachala hills. There, he always worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead in silence. Agastya Rishi, along with many disciples, once approached King Indradyumna's ashram. But because the king was meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he could not receive Agastya Rishi properly. Thus the Rishi became very angry and cursed the king to become a dull elephant. In accordance with this curse, the king was born as an elephant, and he forgot all about his previous activities in devotional service. Nonetheless, in his birth as an elephant, when he was dangerously attacked by the crocodile, he remembered his past life in devotional service and remembered a prayer he had learned in that life. Because of this prayer, he again received the mercy of the Lord. Thus he was immediately delivered, and he became one of the Lord's four-handed associates. Shukadeva Goswami ends this chapter by describing the good fortune of Gajendra. Shukadeva Goswami says that by hearing the narration of Gajendra's deliverance, one can also get the opportunity to be delivered as well. Shukadeva Goswami vividly describes this and thus ends the chapter. There is a very interesting purport which Srila Prabhupada composed in one of the verses dealing with this chapter, which I will now read. First, the verse. It appears in chapter 2, verse 30. Tato Gajendrasya mano balaujasam kalena dirgena mahan abudvaya Vikrishyamanasya jale vasidato Viparyayo bhut sakalang jalaukasa. Translation. Thereafter, because of being pulled into the water and fighting for many long years, the elephant became diminished in his mental, physical, and sensual strength. The crocodile, on the contrary, being an animal of the water, increased in enthusiasm, physical strength, and sensual power. Here is Prabhupada's purport. In the fighting between the elephant and the crocodile, the difference was that although the elephant was extremely powerful, he was in a foreign place, namely the water. During 1,000 years of fighting, the elephant could not get any food, and under the circumstances, his bodily strength diminished. And because his bodily strength diminished, his mind also became weak and his senses less powerful. The crocodile, however, being an animal of the water, had no difficulties. He was getting food and was therefore getting mental strength and sensual encouragement. Thus, while the elephant became reduced in strength, the crocodile became more and more powerful. Now from this we may take the lesson that in our fight with Maya, we should not be in a position in which our strength, enthusiasm, and senses will be unable to fight vigorously. Our Krishna consciousness movement has actually declared war against the illusory energy in which all living entities are rotting in a false understanding of civilization. The soldiers in this Krishna consciousness movement must always possess physical strength, enthusiasm, and sensual power. To keep themselves fit, they must therefore place themselves in a normal condition of life. What constitutes a normal condition will not be the same for everyone, and therefore there are divisions of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. Especially in this age, Kali Yuga, it is advised that no one take sannyas. Ashvamedham kavalambam sannyasam phala paitrikam devarena sutot bating kalau pancha vivarjayet. This is a verse from the Brahma Vaivarta Purana, which was quoted by Lord Chaitanya in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, chapter 17, when he was speaking to the Chandakazi. From this we can understand that in this age, the sannyas ashram is forbidden because people are not strong. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed us an example in taking sannyas at the age of 24 years. But even Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya advised Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be extremely careful because he had taken sannyas at an early age. For preaching, we are giving young boys sannyas, but actually it is being experienced that they are not fit for sannyas. There is no harm, however, if one thinks he is unfit for sannyas, especially if he is very much agitated sexually. In that case, he should go to the ashram where sex is allowed, namely the Grihastha ashram. That one has been found to be very weak in one place does not mean that he should stop fighting the crocodile of Maya. That one has been found to be very weak in one place does not mean that he should stop fighting the crocodile of Maya. One should take shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, just as Gajendra did. And at the same time, one can be a grihastha if he is satisfied with sexual indulgence. There is no need to give up the fight. There is no need to give up the fight. There is no need to give up the fight. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore recommended Sthane stita shruti gadang tanovan manobi. One may stay in whichever ashram is suitable for one. It is not essential that one take sannyas. If one is sexually agitated, he can enter the Grihastha ashram, but one must continue fighting. But one must continue fighting. One must continue fighting. For one who is not in the transcendental position, to take sannyas artificially is not a very great credit. If sannyas is not suitable, one may enter the Grihastha ashram and fight Maya with great strength. But one should not give up the fighting and go away. If sannyas is not suitable, one may enter the Grihastha ashram and fight Maya with great strength. But one should not give up the fighting and go away. One should not give up the fighting and go away. One should not give up the fighting and go away.